Right, hello people. This weekend we have Barrios versus Ryan Garcia. Now, I'm going to do something a bit new for this video. I'm going to do an undercard preview, so not an official prediction for the undercard, but I'll give some picks here and there and just talk about some of the fights on the undercard before at a later date posting my prediction for the main event. We've got Bekter Murtazaliev, something like that. Fucking tricky name to say, I do know of him. Versus Sina Akrabido. That's a fucking weird name to say. Yeah, you go with Bektemir to win this. Seems like a bit of a step down, but yeah. Up the card to fights that I can actually break down, we have Frank Martin versus Nahir Albright. Now, that's actually a very, very good fight. Frank Martin, of course, coming off a stint of inactivity. He did get a win back in December, so getting a bit more active now, but before that was off for quite a long time, about a year and a half after his defeat to Gervonta Tank Davis, where he was knocked out in the 8th round, before winning some rounds like most do against Gervonta Davis, but not really putting in a performance that really separates him from the rest of Ryan Garcia's, Gervonta Davis's competition. Has got some good wins here and there. Artem Hertanarian was a good win for him. Michelle Rivera was a decent win. So yeah, some good wins for Frank Martin. Last time out fought Barthélemy. I can't say his first name. Rances Barthélemy, something like that. Looked very good in that performance. Good footwork. Knockout of the year contender. Yeah, man, was just keeping Barthélemy really, really off balance, constantly switching angles against the older man, just as a bit too energetic for him, and put him out in the 4th round with a beautiful, beautiful shot. Yeah, as for Nahir Albright, last time we heard really from Nahir Albright, he was meant to be taking on Adam Azim as a replacement for Lemos, I believe, but that fell through, and now he's fighting Frank Martin on this undercard. And yeah, man, Nahir Albright is a good fighter. Only has 2 losses in his career to, well, the only relevant loss he has is to Jermaine Ortiz by unanimous decision. In terms of wins, he has a win over Keyshawn Davis's brother Kelvin Davis, who was 15-0 at the time. So he took his oath from him. That was the last time we saw him out, over half a year ago. Before that, I believe went the distance with Keyshawn Davis, and actually gave Keyshawn Davis probably the toughest fight of his career. It was a really, really close fight that has been overturned to a no contest, I believe, because Davis got caught for smoking weed or something. But yeah, it's fought 2 of the Davis brothers. Of course, Keyshawn being the most talented, and gave Keyshawn Davis a really tough night, gave a really good account of himself here. Smart money is definitely on Frank Martin, but it's a very, very good fight. Up the card, we've got Gary Anton Russell versus Andy Harioka. I'm shit with names, yeah. Up the card, we've got Gary Anton Russell versus Andy Harioka. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names, people, but yeah. This is also a great fight. Yeah, this might be fight of the night, to be fair. Gary Anton Russell, of course, got a record of 18-1, with 17 of his wins coming by way of knockout. I believe he's the WBA super lightweight champion of the world, winning that belt by unanimous decision against Jose Venezuela, which was an incredible win. Not an incredible win, but a very, very solid win. Venezuela, of course, coming off that Isaac Pitbull Cruz masterclass, in my opinion. It was a really, really good performance from Jose Venezuela. Previous to that, was coming off a defeat to Alberto Puello. Of course, the fact that he got a world title shot coming off that defeat is questionable. But Alberto Puello is no easy run over. Very, very good fighter. A notable fight on his record would be his stoppage win over Victor Postal. Nobody's done that, Victor Postal. So yeah, like, Gary Anton Russell's good. Incredible amateur, actually. So everything we can say about him is that he was one of America's better recent amateurs. You know, beat the likes of Richardson Hitchens, Jaron Ennis, Jermaine Ortiz, Abraham Nova. Beat Richardson Hitchens quite a bit as an amateur, actually. Yeah. We go over to the opposing corner, 24-0, Andy Harioka. 24-0 and 19 wins by knockout. Japanese fighter. Coming off a win against Ismael Barroso, which is a tricky win to place, like if it's a good win or not. I'd say it's a half decent win. Barroso, of course, very long in the tooth at that point, but had very recently given a very good account of himself against Roy Romero. Was stopped in that fight horrifically. Horrific stoppage. He probably should have been crowned world champion that night. An old man, but a big puncher. His gas tank failed him in that fight, but yeah, that's a tricky win to kind of place, but it's not a bad win. Other than that, the other notable win is Jin Sasaki, who was 11-0 at the time. I feel like most people will know Jin Sasaki for his defeat to Brian Loma Jr., which was probably the knockout of the year last year. He dealt with Jim Sasaki in very good fashion. The fashion you should really deal with Jim Sasaki in if you're a world-class operator. Lacks defense, kind of walks forward like a zombie, and Hirioka did a job on him. My money to be on Gary Anton Russell to win this. It's a good fight. Great fight, actually. Probably a bit of an all-action fight, maybe. And, yeah, man. I'm looking forward to that. It's probably one of the better fights on the card. Moving up the card, we have one of the more intriguing fights on the card, really. It's actually a pretty decent card, this. We have Richardson Hitchens versus Oscar Duarte. This will, of course, be for the IBF Super Lightweight World title. Richardson Hitchens enters the fight with a record of 20-0 with 8 knockouts. Interesting career so far for Richard Hitchens. He's, of course, coming off an emphatic win against George Kambosos Jr., who, I know George Kambosos was at one point a unified champion, but he's really more of a fringe world level guy. Richard Hitchens stopped him in 8 rounds with body shots. Did exactly what he needed to do, right? You can say, yeah, Hitchens isn't the best, but Hitchens dealt with him in good fashion. Before that was coming off a good win against Liam Paro. That was a very, very cagey fight, though. Both men are good boxers. Paro was, of course, coming off his win against Subaru Matias, and Hitchens just sends him out on that one. Before that was coming off a win against Gustavo Lemos. That was an interesting one, to say the least. Scorecards are a bit all over the place. Lots of people thought Richard Hitchens probably didn't deserve to win that one. It kind of highlighted some of the flaws in Hitchens's game. His lack of an inside game was the major flaw you could really point out. And if you put him under pressure, maybe he can't keep you off due to him really not being a puncher, which we'll get into in a sec. He, of course, also has a win over Jose Cepeda, which isn't bad at all. Getting into the opposing corner, Oscar Duarte, who enters this fight with a record of 30 wins, 2 losses with 1 draw. Notably really came on the scene in his defeat to Ryan Garcia, where he gave a somewhat decent account of himself. Garcia was very awkward and negative that night, but Duarte looked strong, looked tenacious, and like I said, gave a good account of himself. Then went on to be the first man to stop Jojo Diaz in his next fight in 9 rounds. And most recently has a win over Kenneth Sims Jr., who is relatively similar to Hitchens in some areas. That was a competitive fight. Hitchens is better than Kenneth Sims Jr., despite them being fairly similar stylistically. But we get into the Lemos fight for Hitchens, which is where you kind of draw question marks and think, maybe Duarte has a chance, both 2 strong, front foot, aggressive fighters, right? And you'd have to say Duarte is of a higher level than Lemos. I'd certainly agree with that take. But you can also say Hitchens is a world champion now. It's been a little while since that defeat to Lemos. Well, not that defeat, but that fight against Lemos, which was back at the start of 2024, was literally about 2 years ago now, pretty much to the date of this fight. And he may have learnt since then. I'm going to go with Richard Hitchens to very narrowly outbox Oscar Duarte, and what will probably be a controversial fight. but I would not be surprised if Oscar Duarte gets it done at all. Hitchens kind of has that kind of style which can lead to a fight being contentious, especially against a style like Oscar Duarte, where it is just a guy who's never going to stop coming at you. Whereas Hitchens needs a bit of space and needs to be, he needs space to be clean and effective. Basically, he can't handle a dirty fight. So yeah, that's my undercard preview. Next video I'll get into the prediction for the main event. I haven't got a tremendous amount to say about it. It's an interesting fight actually. I've got bits to say, but not in a traditional sense. So yeah, thank you for watching.